power of a handwritten letter, especially in 2023. It's very intimate. I did write letters just in the context of growing up in the 70s and 80s. I wrote, letters home, letters to my grandparents. They wrote me. College, I wrote letters to my dad and he wrote me back.
You don't really find that these days.
I had no idea the impact a letter could have on somebody. Dana is a friend I met at Camp Olympia in Trinity, Texas in 1986. We spent about 6 weeks together as counselors. We both have huge personalities, and I think that attracted us to each other immediately, and we went on and spent the next 30 years of doing life totally separately. Dana's name had always been kind of popping around in my head, and in 2014, her name coming up in my head because of that impact she'd had on me at camp coincided with me being on Facebook. And so like everybody else, I type her name in, Dana Rivera, and then she pops up. And I found out she had 5 kids, the youngest of which was the only boy, and his name was Parker. And I immediately found out that Parker had cancer and was at St. Jude, fighting cancer. So immediately, as a mom, as a human being, I got involved in that story. We spent probably 32 years with 0 contact. Well, when I found out her son had relapsed, that's when I got this overwhelming feeling like, oh my gosh, like a bolt of lightning, like I'll start writing him letters. And that went on for about 6 to 8 weeks. Then Parker passed away, tragically, unthinkably. And then I stopped and thought, well, what am I supposed to do now? And so I just was like, well, I'll just keep writing her letters. The reason I wrote letters instead of leaving a message, I think it was inspired, by higher power. When I wrote Dana and Parker for the first time, I hadn't written a letter in 25 years. But I think to me, it was less intrusive some way. I write a letter, drop it in a mailbox. To me, it was a way to say I was thinking about them and I cared and I was praying for them without being up all in their business and expecting an immediate response. And about 4 months into me writing Dana, she wrote me back. It was one of the great moments of my life because being responded to after all those months was absolutely an incredible, almost like supernatural feeling. I continued to write her because I was so compelled to do it. And I knew I had to do it, even though it made no sense to me. And we did this for 2 years with no electronic communication. We wrote each other back and forth. There's this free space that's created because if you write me a letter, you have no idea if or when I ever opened it or when I read it. And then if I write you back, I have that the whole, where we're looking for a response, that just goes away, and then there's this free space. And what was so profoundly compelling about Dana and I, we just developed this trust that didn't even fit the situation through letters, just from sharing with each other. The content of our letters was all over the place. She did tell me about her grief, but when the letters started to expand, we started to share everything you would share with someone who you hadn't seen in 30 years. The reason I decided to go on this crazy journey and write Facebook friends a letter was this free space that was created between Dana and I from this non-instantaneous communication. About 4 to 6 months after Dana started writing me back, I kind of sat back and I was like, wow, this has kind of blown up my life. Like, it's making me look at everything differently. And I was like, what happens if I write all the Facebook people? What else good is out there that is untapped in my life?
I got the letter from Amy in the mail, and I opened it up and I was like, what is this? I mean, it was this handwritten letter that was front and back, and I started reading it, of course, and she explains that she's going to write all of her Facebook friends.
And I knew it was illogical, and I knew it was crazy, and I really didn't think I was going to finish, but I got a spreadsheet, I put everybody's names in it. There was 500 and some people at the time, and I shoved them all in this box. Once I started writing these letters, it just was like the experience with Dana. Boom, 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 over and over again. Life-changing. This is all 580 copies of all 580 of the Facebook letters.
Only Amy could do this. If someone's going to write 580 of their friends on Facebook, it's Amy Daughters. This
is the journal I kept throughout the Facebook project, and every day I would write down who I wrote and who I heard back from, and just kind of my observations going along, because, and I'm glad I kept this. I started this from the very beginning, and it went all the way through letter 580. And it did help me write the book, though that wasn't the intention. And at the very front, I kept a picture of Parker that Dana sent me, because that was, without getting to know Dana and the Riveras, and without Parker, then none of the rest of us would ever happen. It was about 18 months it took me to write everyone. And at first it was kind of a slow ramp up. I'd do like one every other day. And then once I got past about 250. I started doing 2 a day, and I would take the weekends off. And then I got to where I could write a letter to anyone. I could write a letter to my refrigerator. You just got in a mode, and it became a part of my life. Over and over again, every day I hear from somebody who has started writing letters, who has reconnected with people in some way. And that's the great humbling gift of sharing the story with people. I think it's inspired people. I think it will continue to inspire people. Do I think people should write letters more? Absolutely. I challenge everyone out there to write one card to someone tomorrow and just see what happens and leave it at that. I still get letters from people randomly from Facebook letter recipients.
I kept it. My daughters received letters as well, and I still have theirs. I saved it with of course her book that she wrote, and I'll cherish it forever.
I'm still writing Dana once a week. She writes me back probably a couple times a month. And I think that will always be a regular part, I hope it will, our relationship, even if it's short letters, postcards, whatever. Dana and I are in each other's life. Dana's not just this person on the other end of a letter. Dana has become, I think the friend I always needed that I never knew I needed. Dana's my best friend. Our husbands are, really close. Our families are really close, and we've become a family. And I think it's easy to look at this story through the lens of, look what Amy did for Dana. But Dana has absolutely showed up for me over and over and over again. And me and my family have gotten so much more out of this than we put into it.